Cool. We're going live. Let's queue up the Twitterverse.
Sweet.
Or how loud my keyboard is for this.
I don't hear it.
Okay.
It's actually filtered out really well.
Excellent. Yeah, I've got this fancy mic, so it does pretty well, but sometimes it picks up noise. Definitely going to mute that. Cool. All right, here we go. You're not live until you tweet it, right?
That's right. Like, it's not real until it's on like X social media platform.
Yes, whatever social media platform you're on. Well,
yep.
we're on this social media platform, which is I guess Twitch is a social media platform. Hello, friends.
Yeah.
Welcome to Alma's Thursday streaming series. I'm Joshua Timberman, head of advocacy and community here at Alma. I'll be joined by my co-host, Alma's Chief Product Officer, Pete Cheslock, as soon as his computer cooperates. And today, our special guest is Brittany Woods. Hi, Brittany. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah.
Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself, where you work, what you do, and maybe what your favorite Halloween candy this year was?
All right. Yeah. So as Josh said, my name is Brittany Woods. I am a manager for the server automation team at H&R Block. So my team is responsible for basically combining traditional operations with like future automation. Configuration management is one of those things. Infrastructure as code is partially in our purview. But really our focus is to build automation platforms to enable other teams to go faster in both cloud adoption as well as teams that are already in the cloud.
Cool.
Right.
All exciting things to do.
Right. It's a pretty big purview. It's a pretty big scope. But I have a really good team, and it's really cool to see an organization like invest in enablement like that instead of just saying, hey, go own this. They're really, willing to invest in giving, teams the tools that they need. So that's cool.
Yeah. I think we can all say damn computers, right?
Exactly. But now, like, I'm thinking about my favorite candy, right? And so I'm a sucker for Reese's. I discovered this Halloween in all the Halloween candy that we bought, Reese's like Fast Break or something like that. And I had never had one before, but now I'm like obsessed with them because they were just like in the candy. And now I've been eating all of our candy that we didn't give away. So Reese's Fast Break, apparently.
Reese's Fast Break. I'm not familiar with the Reese's Fast Break. Is this like a bar?
Yeah. It's like a bar. It's got like nougaty stuff in it and peanut butter, and it's wrapped in chocolate. Yeah.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
Right? It's great.
Sorry, I'm late to this fun. My laptop didn't even.
It
could not
like
even.
Not today.
Could not even. It was like, hey, I know you have like a microphone and a thingy all connected.
No, you don't.
I don't see any of those things. I don't know what you're talking about. Like new phone, who does?
Right. It's like, can't. Sorry, not happening. Well, my voice is present, so I almost lost it today.
Yeah. Well, you didn't, so here you are.
Right.
And
right.
Thank goodness for tea, right?
Right. I was gonna say, can we like play an ad for turmeric tea and just like I'll be the poster child for turmeric tea.
Now is that like
turmeric tea with a hint of lemon?
I was gonna say, is it like make your own, like a little turmeric and hot water and whatever, or is it like a pouch you can just magic to?
Well, so we have it in a pouch. This is a make your own turmeric lemon English breakfast blend to see what would get my voice back. So here we are. It works.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that it works. Yeah. I got to making hot toddies because my wife introduced me to the concept of them. I had no idea that that was a thing you should be having when you have a sore throat. And like the Jameson is really what makes it.
Right. You're like, this is a treat.
Right. Yes. Honey, lemon, Jameson. Like, what's not to like? Oh, I guess there's some tea in there somewhere, but I mean,
right. We don't talk about that.
Indeed. Well, so what clouds are you in with the cloud
Azure.
cloudisons? Azure.
We're in Azure. Yep.
Azure. I didn't know people used Azure.
Yeah. We definitely
tell me
use
more
Azure.
about your use of Azure.
Yeah, we definitely use Azure. So I actually came from Carfax, which was an AWS shop. And so it was a little bit of a learning curve to switch from AWS to Azure. But it's actually been a pleasant experience, honestly. You know, some things that didn't just work in AWS just work in Azure.
That's fabulous. I love when things just work, especially when they're in the cloud.
Right. I mean, like no cloud is really like all roses, right? But it hasn't been bad. I like it.
Are you using kind of like Microsoft's like high level primitives of, I don't know, I assume they have like a serverless thing. They probably have a Kubernetes thing, or is it just more their like compute platforms, or what are the big services that you've used there?
All of the above.
Nice.
We're using like the Azure specific services like AKS, but we're also using compute. We've got database instances, so managed like PAS SQL in Azure, things like that.
SQL Server?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your platform primarily like a C# stack then?
So now you're asking me questions that I may not know. I've only been around for not a super long time. I know we use a lot of .NET. So yeah, probably.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess C#
stack.
and .NET are basically the same thing, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I play games on Windows.
Yeah. I don't know the similarities between the two, but I have heard the words C# and .NET tossed around. So
we should bring on some C# / .NET experts.
We should. Right. We might know some.
Grill me.
Pete.
Yeah, we might know one or two. All I will say is that I have not. I've not been like an IDE user, like because I'm an ops person. You learned Vim because that was the only editor on the servers 20 years ago, and I never really grew up and used a big person tool to program with. And I started using Visual Studio Code recently, and it is like a delight. I'm like blown away by how good some of these are. Like, it just makes annoying things easy, and I feel like that's a win every time.
Yeah, for the longest time I used Vim, and I had like Tmux, and I was like all cool in my terminal. And then I also started using Visual Studio Code, and I was like, oh, all of these things that like I had to think about, like Visual Studio Code just does for me, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, just like you know, we have some part of our code base is C# or .NET, and sometimes I go in there and I don't really actually know anything about it, but like the IDE is like, okay, like this thing is calling something else. Like, what does this thing do? And it's like you like right click it, and you're like, it'll be like, oh, you mean this thing over here? Here's what this code does, and you're like, I would have never found that. Like, there's no grep. There's no grep I could have run that could have found that thing.
There's so many times when I was working on Chef code that I always wished that there was an actual IDE for it, because I saw some friends show RubyMine and Ruby and Rails code, and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. But Chef was just like its own special thing that did all the weird Ruby things, and no IDE could find anything with it. Even RubyMine, I think there was a plugin for it at some point, but
there was definitely a plugin later. But I feel like it was always like not quite there.
Yeah. The stuff I found with like Chef plugins, I loved having them, but I also hated having them because inevitably it wasn't exactly what I wanted. And I'm like, well, that's helpful maybe if I was doing this other thing, but I'm not doing that other thing. So this is not helpful.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun times. Well, hey, let's wind back a moment. I have a question about how you got into tech in the first place. Like, how did you get to be the server automation manager for H&R Block? Like, what got you there?
So I started my journey as a technical support rep at a little banking software company known as Jack Henry. So I worked the worst shift known to man. I worked 5 p.m. to, I think at the time I worked 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. or something like that. It was horrifying, right?
Yeah.
And so I knew before that, I always said that I wanted to work with computers. I didn't want to work on computers. So I didn't want to like go build a laptop or a computer or anything like that. I wanted to be able to like write code and fix a computer if it's broken on the software side and stuff like that. So the tech support role was kind of my way to like get into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that for about 1.5 years. I later switched to a also horrible time slot, which was 4 a.m. to 3 p.m. 4 days. So 4 on, 3 off. And there was an opening as a Windows system administrator. And so I took that. And that was where I got introduced to Chef, actually. And everything kind of took off from there. And so I helped build up the Chef environment at Jack Henry. And then I went to Carfax and kind of did the same thing. And now I'm at H&R Block. And it started as the same thing. I started at H&R Block 1 year ago as a lead cloud automation engineer that was focused on configuration management. And then now I'm managing the server automation team, and that's in all roads start with Chef. Very close, yes. And so that's where we kind of are now, and my team manages that as well as the other automation platforms.
So what version of Chef was your first one? I'm always curious.
It was Chef client. I don't know. It was back in the 8 maybe 7. I don't know. It was way back there. Once I made it to Carfax, we started on 10, I believe. So yeah, it was way back there though.
That'd be the roles era for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And actually, so the implementation at Jack Henry was a little weird because it was, its rollout was a little slower than Carfax's rollout was.
Mm-hmm.
But at Carfax, we definitely used roles and environments. Our environments were hefty. And we were essentially, oddly enough, we were kind of mocking policy file behavior with roles and environments. So,
which is where a lot of the policy file stuff got its origins. People are doing these kinds of patterns. Maybe we should support something that allows them to do that.
Right. I was around when policy files were like an anti-pattern. If that tells you how long.
That was a messaging issue on our part.
Right.
For those of us who are trying to promote that.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I just found actually on that topic a tweet that I very specifically remember sending to Joshua many years ago. And I was amazed actually how quickly I found this. Shout out to Twitter search. I tweeted out, is there a max to Joshua specifically? This is 2013, by the way. Is there a max number of environments that you can have in a Chef org? And his response was quite simply, I don't know, probably not. And I was like, and my response, which is very sysadmin of me, it was like, lol, okay, I guess we're going to find out.
Nice.
And even Seth Falcon responded, was like, oh, do you have a good idea involving 1 million environments? It turns out, I don't know how good of an idea it was, but it definitely was an idea. And we created versioned environments because you couldn't version an environment, but you could create versions of environments and then just move things from environment A to B pretty easily. And honestly, it worked pretty well. I was happy with that.
Yeah, I think that there was a pseudo implementation of that inside of delivery when it used roles and environments pretty heavily. I think that idea percolated and found its way into product development. And we're getting a confirmation that there was, in all caps.
Nice. Solid.
Yeah.
We had I couldn't even tell you without like sitting down and thinking about it and counting how many environments we had. But we had converted them all from JSON to Ruby. So we had Ruby environment files that fed off of like constraints files. And then there was some automation that happened after a pull request was submitted if you wanted to change it. Then that automation like promoted it all. It was an event.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was real. And we always had the capability in Chef to, like, you could always write Ruby files for your roles in your environments, because sometimes you just want to write some code and get that going, which led to no end of arguments over symbols versus strings for keys.
Right.
You're making me remember these things, and it's
Yeah.
making me both nostalgic and sad.
Yeah, well, I mean, welcome to my brain, Pete. This is like what I'm thinking about all the time. Like, this stuff just does not leave my brain ever.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you know, you'll go and like, what are your kids' birthdays? You know, you're checking into the doctor, like, what's your kid's birthday? And I'm like, hold on, I know this one, you know, but it'll be like, you know, what's the thing that you'd have to do to make like Chef 0 dot something work on a thing? I'm like, oh yeah, that's right there. I got that one.
Oh yeah.
Front of the brain.
Yeah, front of the brain. That's where
Yeah.
all that lives. Indeed. Well, cool. So you're working on server automation stuff there at H&R Block. Have you had the joy of working from home full time throughout the whole pandemic, or did you get switched mid-pandemic?
I have actually been able to work from home for the whole pandemic. Basically, at the pandemic start, I worked at Carfax, so I'm one of those that switched jobs mid-pandemic.
Oh wow, yeah, cool.
But so Carfax, I was actually in office, and we had switched to working from home like 3 days a week. And the pandemic happened, so we moved home full time. And then I started my role at H&R Block, which is permanently remote. So I just kind of stayed home indefinitely. Yeah. Time has no meaning. I can barely tell you what day of the week it is. If my calendar wasn't full, I would have no idea.
Yeah, if the calendar is empty, it must be the weekend.
Right. I actually found a few months ago, I had just got a new car. I got a new Bronco. So if anybody wants to talk about the Broncos. So I got a new car, switched over my license plates, was getting ready to go tag the car, and realized that my license plates had expired like months before.
Oh no.
And I looked at them when I switched them over, and I was like, oh, I still have like almost a year. We're good. And then I realized that 2021 and 2020 just really didn't happen. So though they expired in 2021, in my head, I thought that was next year. So yeah, that's my fun story about how pandemic time works.
Well, at least it wasn't like a polite police officer who decides to pull you over and let you know of this. Like,
right.
By the way, here's a ticket for your moving violation, you know?
Exactly. I don't know how that didn't happen, other than in the town I live in, I think everyone is just driving with expired temp tags at this point. I've seen some for 2020, and I'm like, I would be worried.
Yeah, in Massachusetts, we have car inspections. Not all, I know not all states do, but we do here. And when like lockdowns and whatever happened, they had said like, oh, you know, basically like you don't have to get your car inspected. It was like a 6-month time period or something like that. Mm-hmm. Which then meant, of course, like I had it on the calendar to do like in April. And then I was like, oh, I don't have to worry about this. No worries. Right. And then, yeah, to your point, like the next year we're driving and all the gas stations have a sign to tell you like what color sticker you should have. And it was actually my daughter at one point was like, how come your sticker is yellow and those stickers are green? And I'm like, oh boy, like we are 6 months past inspection. Like this is a legit ticket if I get pulled over.
Right.
Time has no meaning.
No meaning. None.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I bought a car in the midst of the pandemic, and like the whole experience there was interesting because, you know, wearing a mask the whole time, and then they don't come with you, like the dealer person doesn't come with you in the car, you know, to be in an enclosed area. So they're like, yeah, just be back within an hour. Okay.
All right.
I had a lot of fun driving an Infiniti.
You're like, this is the way to test drive a car or rent a car, really. Just go test drive it for an hour.
Because there's a highway right near the car dealership that I went to.
Nice.
Well, honestly, I feel like it's like the first time I had signed up for like Hertz, whatever plan is, where you just like show up, grab your car and go, you know?
Yeah.
But the first time you go through that experience as someone who has then probably previously waited in the line with the 3,000 other people, it's magical. You're just like, you get off the plane and you walk to the thing, you like the keys in the ignition, you just go.
Right. Yeah. We did that. It was before the pandemic. We did a trip. We were in like Miami, I think. And the car was like, just like that. Walk over to it, get in and leave.
It's amazing. I reserved a car and waited in line in Pensacola recently for like half an hour. And it was like midnight. And they were like, we don't have any cars for you. They found one eventually, but apparently there's like a car shortage or something happening.
Supply chain issues.
Yeah, right. It's I would say like supply chain issues, or they sold them all off during the pandemic and now people want to rent them.
Right. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. So speaking of the pandemic, what was your favorite pandemic hobby that you picked up? The new one.
Well, I have a bit of undiagnosed ADHD, so I have picked up a lot of hobbies. I did puzzles for a while. I have about 30 puzzles in the other room. Some of them are unopened. I crocheted a little bit. I made a blanket. Let's see.
Now, did you learn to crochet, or did you like pick it up again?
I picked it up again. I got better at my bass guitar, which is hanging on the wall behind me. Excuse the mess, actually. New siding is getting installed, so I had to take all the things off the wall that would fall off.
Yeah.
So I did that. Yeah, you name it. I probably did it during the pandemic.
Nice.
Favorite, though, was probably the puzzles. I never realized how relaxing putting together a puzzle is.
Yeah, we also went down that puzzle route, and it was hilarious because we'd start, and my kids who are like 6 and 10 years old would be like, let's do a puzzle. And then we would start it. And like they would be down for like, 500, 300 piece puzzles or whatever.
Yeah.
So then I got a couple of 1,000-piece puzzles, and they would always start off like really into it. And then, they would fade pretty fast. And then it just turned out that like they were in the other room doing whatever. And my wife and I were just sitting there like quietly putting pieces in. I'm like, oh God, this is so soothing.
Right.
Yeah,
like it's not a screen. It's great.
Yeah. My wife actually got into putting puzzles together years ago. And she has taken to putting like this puzzle backing on them. And then we hang them in our basement. So we've got like 15 or so puzzles down in our basement on the walls, and she's currently doing a 3,000 piece Marvel universe puzzle.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and it's awesome that you have a place to hang them.
Well, right? Yeah, and the TV and all that stuff is down in the basement, so we go down there and watch shows while she puts together the puzzles. Sometimes she puts together the puzzle for the show that we're watching.
Nice,
but it usually takes longer to make the puzzle than. Nice. Unless it's the Lord of the Rings one. When we get to that, I think we'll be able to cover it pretty well.
Yeah. By the time you reach the last Lord of the Rings movie, and you've grown like a long gray beard, you'll be done with the Lord of the Rings puzzle, right?
Seriously. Yeah. We'll have to watch the extended versions, I guess.
Right.
Cool. Thanks, Scott, for popping in.
Yeah.
And Scott did ask me about my roof. Speaking of your siding, yesterday we had our roof replaced, and it was very loud in my house all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was.
I had to go to Kansas City actually for a meeting, which is where H&R Block's headquarters is. Mm-hmm. But it was very loud at my house for part of the day before yesterday, and then today they're supposed to be here. We're supposed to be here this afternoon, but you'll notice the apparent lack of banging. So that must have been postponed to tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it sounds like they're like beating the wall down. Like literally it sounds like the house is going to cave in on itself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's wild. So the garage here is on the other side of this wall. And then my son's bedroom is above the garage, but it's a 3-car. So like the 3rd car bay is is up there. So when they were doing that part, it was especially loud because I was getting the echo from the window of the outside through the ceiling and then through the wall. It was just like this reverberation effect. It was amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome. And then our living room out there has a vaulted ceiling that goes all the way up to the 2nd floor. And so the vaulted ceiling has no attic to it. So it's like the interior drywall, space with like the insulation, and then the roof. And there are a couple spots where they pounded nails out of the joists through the drywall, like into the dining room and the living room. It was
just like a hazard existing in your house.
Right. I walk out there and I'm like, what is this drywall dust mess doing here? And my wife points up and she says, yeah, those nails came out. I didn't know that was a thing that was possible.
Right. That's terrifying.
Oh.
Space the interior drywall.
These are the stories of the Starship. If this is a starship, that'd be amazing. This is just a boring little house.
I'd kind of want to watch that. Like, I would watch that show of like the last starship that is like the junky, nails and screws are falling out and dust, and people are like, was that a hole there yesterday? And like, air is being sucked out.
Pete, that's the Millennium Falcon. It still flies, and it's the fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy.
That's awesome.
Indeed. Well, so what are you working on these days that has you jazzed?
So I'm still very much in configuration management land. So like I've talked about that in the past tense, but it's still present tense. That's really exciting. But we're also doing a lot I talked about how we kind of combined legacy operations. So one thing that I'm excited about is in combining legacy operations, we have kind of brought together that knowledge base, and it's unearthed a lot of things that we can improve with either automation or expanded knowledge or, whatever, new tools. So I think it's exciting to kind of see the team come together in that way. For me, because I'm in non-exciting manager land. But it's exciting for me to be able to see the team come together that way and be able to, make things better. That doesn't happen in every organization. You don't get the opportunity to see things get better. You kind of just see things stay the same. So that has me pretty excited. Obviously making progress on the things that we've started, because I started the config management stuff, building out the environment and getting that rolling a year ago. So it's exciting to see that work be picked up by other people and new ideas be brought into the fold and that take off as well. So those things have me jazzed. But largely it's the coming together and making things better that I think has me the most jazzed.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Are you delving into the land of YAML? Into Kubernetes?
Yeah. So we do have some teams using Kubernetes. Like I said, we're using AKS. We're kind of at the container part of that conversation, like my team specifically. So trying to understand the needs for our environment, make sure that, hardening is in place and all of those things that you have to do whenever you switch to containers. But yeah, YAML. It's funny. All of the chef bits, I know I keep going back to chef, but that's kind of where I lived for so long. All of the chef bits were like usable. And I'm like, oh, don't worry about that white space until you get to the kitchen files. And then you're like, oh, that extra white space. Just kidding. Like you can't do that.
Yep.
So that translating to other projects is of course, fun. I've never been a fan of YAML though. I'll be real. I'm gonna die on that hill. I don't like it.
I will die with you on that hill.
I'm
right
too
there
complicated.
With you. Yeah. Jason doesn't have comments You know what Jason has? An arbitrary data store where you can put in a comment key and put your comment in there if you want. And then you can filter that out with tooling.
Yeah, right. Well, and it's not going to yell at you because you have like an extra space at the end of the line.
Yep. Yeah. Well,
that you didn't know was there until you turned it on so you could see that the extra space was there.
The funny thing that I learned when I was delving into Kubernetes was, of course, that it all gets marshaled down into JSON anyway.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
and of course, because I have a long tenured history with Chef, I did herb my YAML files for the Kubernetes deployment config. So those were just an herb file that was YAML, and then it got all the dynamic stuff inserted in. And I thought I was cool. And then I learned that there's 5,000 startups that are building tooling that does that. And I'm like, cool.
Yeah, you were like, sweet. Hi.
Yep. We're all building the same things over and over again.
That's awesome.
Fun times.
It's true. Over and over and over.
And over and over. Solving the same problems over and over. That's DevOps, right?
You know what I'm realizing as I'm sitting here thinking about, things not tech related as I talk about tech related things, I'm realizing that at the beginning of this, I called you Josh and your name is Joshua, not Josh.
That's correct. Yes.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's an easy thing to miss because for people who have known me for many, many years before I started preferring Joshua, and then B, like I'm the only Joshua on the planet. Like everybody else is Josh.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's very presumptive of me. You didn't call me Britt, so
it's all good. Not a worry. Speaking of Chef, I did have Josh at chef.io and Joshua at chef.io, which was funny when other Joshes got hired and people thought that was their emails, and I would get other people's emails. That was always fun.
Awesome. You're like, hey, I screened this for you. I got
right?
this email for you.
Well, the best was Josh Crossman, who was he was the head of customer success there, and so he got all kinds of vendor marketing nonsense that I never saw until
that's awesome.
They sent it to
you. Were like, now it's coming to me, so that's great.
Yeah, and then we would laugh about him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, Pete, you don't know what anything like that is like, right?
I just remember, well, it's weirdly enough, there's not usually a lot of Pete's at companies. I don't know, that name clearly fell out of favor. I don't know. At some point in history, like I feel like I'm the last Pete sometimes, to the point that I feel like I run into other Pete's and there's this immediate bond we have because I feel like there are so few of us out there. There was even that one time that I found there's another Pete Cheslock, which I was blown away by. But then also to find out they lived in Boston, where I live. So then, of course, I had to Google them to figure out, like, is this a real person? To which, obviously, it was. And then my favorite thing ever is that apparently his email address is only slightly different than mine. And he apparently gets some of my emails and vice versa. So it made sense when I was getting recruited for, like, this, like, science testing thing. And I'm like, that's not what I do. And it turns out that's what this other Pete does.
That's awesome.
And then one time he actually emailed me and he just goes, I think this email is for you. And I'm just like, thanks, Pete Cheslock. Signed, Pete Cheslock.
That's awesome. There's a ton of Brittanys in the world, I'm sure you know. But there, in the town I live in, there are 3 of us, all with the same first, middle, and last name. But one of them in particular shares the same birth month and year with me. We were just born on different days. Unfortunately for me, though, that one has a criminal record. So I always have to be like, if I get a new job, I have to be like, so I need you to run my social security number, because if you just like go hopping on CaseNet, it's going to look like I have a criminal record, and I do not.
Wow.
They always try to give me like prescriptions for the other Brittany Woods, though. I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. Thank you, though.
Seriously. So I did this genealogical adventure a few years ago at like 3 a.m, kind of like a Wikipedia adventure. Mm-hmm. And I found out that it is very likely that anybody else who has the last name Timberman in the United States is related.
Nice.
It's a very
Cool.
small and uncommon name. Like I can't even tell you how many hours. It's probably embarrassing the number of hours I spent on that. Yeah. So and there is like one or two other Joshua Timbermans out there. They probably both go by Josh though, because they're savages.
It's just secretly you. It's like your alter personality or something.
Well, one of them is in the Denver area, allegedly.
There you go. See,
Yeah.
it is you. You just like created this whole persona and you kept the same name and nobody even knows. You're like,
It's
oh yeah,
true.
that other Josh guy. I don't know about
I
that.
don't know about that. Who's Josh Timberman? That's
Right.
weird.
Yeah. Who's this Josh? I go by Joshua.
That's right. All the syllables.
Right.
You have to put the right emphasis on the right syllable.
Right. That's right. Right. Emphasis.
It's clear. It's clearly the right thing to do.
Yeah. Right.
Well, cool. Do you have any questions for us?
I don't know. Like, I don't have anything. I just like talking.
Yeah, that's cool.
What do you have any other questions for me about technical bits or fun stuff? I feel like I didn't answer any of the questions you asked correctly.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's no correct answer to anything.
Right.
Oh, here's a question
worst
from
part
Audience question.
Yeah, what's the worst part of Azure that you've hit so far?
All right, coming in hot with the negative Azure.
Right. Honestly, like, so for the first part of my tenure working on Azure, I was a little shielded from that because I was so far in config management land. I will say that a lot of Azure's very interconnected is the wrong word, but I'll say interconnected. So I've noticed like Azure DevOps, for example, it'll just be having a random issue for no reason, and it's related to some other service in Azure that's having like a tiny issue. And so seeing those tiny issues happen is different for me, just coming from AWS. I mean, I'm sure they eat their own dog food too, but it just didn't feel like you would see those messages pop up as much. So I don't know if this is Microsoft is more transparent or, you know, they have more service interconnected issues. I don't know. That's weird. It's one of the things that I've hit so far.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's limiting and stuff like that. There's, you know, subscription limits. And so whenever you scale beyond a certain point, you start to see those limits. So it's just things that you don't necessarily think of whenever you're in AWS, because in AWS, like, we never hit a limit at Carfax. We just did what we were doing and it was good. So.
Mm-hmm. So what is Azure DevOps?
It is
like,
so Azure
is that DevOps
is,
in the cloud?
Do you remember TFS?
Like
if you didn't use Git, you use Team Foundation.
Oh
server.
yeah, Team Foundation. Okay, yeah. Their
so,
source management.
Yeah.
Wait,
so
do they also have something called Visual Source Safe, or is that like aging myself?
This is where I went. Was Team Fortress server, obviously.
Yeah, I have no idea. But so Azure DevOps is basically, they've like rebranded TFS. And so it's their like solution for Jira. It's their solution for pipelines. So it kind of like, you don't use Jenkins, you use ADO pipelines. There's also like artifact repositories in there as well. Code repositories. So you don't use like GitHub or Bitbucket, you use Azure DevOps. So it's kind of like this big all-in-one platform for your code and testing and feature releases and things.
Wait, but doesn't Microsoft own Azure? And doesn't doesn't Microsoft also own GitHub?
Yeah.
Maybe these gigantic megacorps should talk to each other internally.
Right. So I have always wondered, because Azure, like ADO repos, is not GitHub. Like, it doesn't even have the same look or feel or anything as GitHub. And I'm like, why though? Like, you own GitHub. Why is this not just GitHub? So I don't know why that is. It's weird. But yeah, it's kind of like an all-in-one Microsoft solution for code bits. But it did get me out of using Jira, so that's a thing. I wasn't very good at using Jira, so
there are so many ways to take that.
Right.
I don't actually dislike Jira terribly
Really?
much. It's just as bad as everything else, just a little bit less bad when you're familiar with how to use it. Right? Like
Yeah.
the whole meme of everything is terrible.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have cry party about ticketing systems next week on Hangouts, Pete.
Well, I feel like you can do a lot of terrible things with any piece of software, right? Like
Yeah.
Jira is just one of those ones where I feel like we give it to like the pointy-headed bosses of the world who go and do things that no one should do in Jira. Turns out it's all humans. Humans are truly the real problems.
Yeah.
As it
and
turns
that's
out.
totally fair. Cause like, I mean, so it's not even an Atlassian thing really. Cause I love Confluence. I love Trello, and they own Jira. It was
but Trello was built
kind of run me wrong.
But Trello was built, like they were acquired, right? So
Were they?
Yeah, Trello was a separate company. Wasn't that Fog Creek Software? Was that who made it?
Oh wow, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. It was definitely someone else, and then
you're all like all these insider bits I didn't know.
Yeah,
I'm getting an education.
Historical, like there are vestiges of that I kept a hold on to that did not get overturned by all of the the chef attribute hierarchy.
Right, exactly. Well, that like takes an entire like section out of your brain, that attribute hierarchy. So
it does. All right, we've got
there's a Trello about link.
en-us/about. Let's see what that, because I can't click that directly in the chat. Oh yeah, Fog Creek Software. I did remember that correctly.
Look at you.
Yeah, I keep useless information like that in my head and not my children's birth dates.
That's
amazing.
I
mean that's a new level of useless information that
right.
Even I didn't have that one. So way to go. That's amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but like to summarize the ADO repo bits, I would still rather use GitHub. But so that's like the commercial for ADO, right? Like it's here, but we would still rather use GitHub or GitLab or something.
Or anything with Git in it, really.
Right. Like a Git something. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're on Jira, you could just use Bitbucket.
That's true. I've been in Bitbucket
I'll see
land.
myself out. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So what are you using? So speaking of Azure and Chef things, are you using Inspect to scan your Azure account for security, or are you using something else?
That's a good question. I know that they are using something else. I know that Inspect can do that, but we're not using Inspect for that. But we're still kind of early in that journey anyway. Like in a past life, I used Inspect to scan like AWS accounts, and to scan for like various things that we were looking for. Cloud Defender.
I'm not familiar with Cloud Defender, but I figure we give that a shout out.
There you go. I like it. But yeah, so no, we're not using it in that capacity, but it's not, I don't think it's something that we won't try. Because I like finding new uses for things to make them useful. So yeah.
Yeah, good shout out there for Shortcut. Formerly known as Clubhouse, not the audio app. We actually use Shortcut at Alma. It's awesome. It's a very easy to use, clean, very fast and responsive, which is like half the battle. Task tracking tool. Big fan. Love it.
That is excellent looking.
It's very pretty. Like, and it comes with just like Jira, you can do a lot of terrible things with it. I actually kind of like that it's very prescriptive. It's like, listen, You're building software. You're probably going to have an epic. You're probably going to have tasks and bugs. Here are those objects. Go and create, you know. There's something somewhat nice about that. I don't have to think too much about it.
Yeah. And roadmap. So that's cool.
Huh. Formerly Clubhouse, as it says on the name there.
Yeah, doing a good little bit of a rebrand there from the old Clubhouse audio app that was all the rage. I don't know, January. Yeah,
I don't know. I guess there's Twitter Spaces now, which I joined one recently, and then to my dismay found out that if you're not using the mobile app, it does not have the same UI as the desktop app, and I couldn't unmute to talk or something. Yeah, it's very silly.
So is the Clubhouse the not app that we just looked at? Is Clubhouse like the voice spaces gone now? I know you said formerly known as All the Rage or whatever.
I'm sure it's still a thing, right?
Oh, it's just not like a thing.
I think
social audio app. Yeah, I mean,
I think I got the Twitter Spaces app added into my Twitter app. Like I can search for Spaces on there. It's
nice, interesting.
I don't know what I'm going to do with this.
See, I would just be bad at the whole like getting in a voice chat room. I'm a keyboard warrior kind of girl.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on IRC since the early 90s, so.
Nice. So I have a guilty confession. I've never actually used IRC.
Well, you're in luck because neither does anybody else anymore. It's all Slack and Discord.
I was going to say, I've used Slack,
yeah.
which I'm told was like built off of or to mock IRC maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it was
pouring out for free.
Yeah, pouring out for free node. Yeah, it was a better design on top of IRC. Like they had used an IRC server to chat when they were building their stuff, and
nice.
Yeah,
today I learned.
Yeah, TIL didn't know that Twitch uses IRC. I mean,
Sweet.
Everything is IRC if you look close.
If you try hard enough.
Nice.
If you try hard enough.
So I have used it. I just didn't use the original.
Right. Well, and
nice.
I've always been amused when IRC is mentioned in a TV show like crime procedurals, because it's always where the hackers are, the hackers network. Yeah. It's like,
well, if you live in Missouri, the hackers are in the inspect element tab. So, womp womp. I live in Missouri, so that's why
Indeed.
I'm allowed to say that.
There's a link to the Twitch TV IRC docs. That's pretty cool. Yeah, these days I'm all about Discord. That's where Alma has a community Discord, for example. Link in the show description. I'm supposed to say that, right, Pete?
Link in the show notes.
Link in the show notes. Yes,
there'd have to be show notes.
There have to be show notes.
To link in there.
Yes.
But link in the Twitch chat.
Yeah. If you go to the community page on the Alma site, it will have a link to the Discord there.
Nicely
there we go.
Done. There you go.
Maybe I'll figure out this stuff at some point.
Yeah, this is great. Love it.
I was muted that whole time.
You were. I'm sure it was really funny too.
Yeah. I said that nicely done. I liked the support and camaraderie that was going on.
We're still figuring it out as we go. Alma's a small company.
It's awesome.
We don't have the megacorp size of Microsoft, but
right.
But
does anyone really though, other than like the Googles and the whatever?
Yeah, I'd say Fang, but now it's Mang.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like Mang or something.
Manga.
Yeah.
Just rearrange the letters.
Yeah, right. I'm still not entirely sure if we should leave the F in there. So you're like,
just put F's in the chat.
Right. Manga.
Indeed. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today, Brittany. We're coming up on our allotted time for today, and I'm sure that you as a manager are back to back on meetings, as we all are. But thank you all for joining us as well. Tomorrow we will be streaming a game of webcam Magic the Gathering. So if you want to see more of the fun times, Pete's got his.
I'm gonna turn it. There we go.
Yeah, mine's in a special box.
Yeah, I'm not that fancy. I did a little sneak peek. I was told to get card protectors.
Yeah,
and I did.
Yeah,
and they're very satisfying.
Excellent. You will not damage your cards when you shuffle them.
Cards.
Excellent. Well, cool. Thank you, everyone, and we will catch you next time.
See ya.